Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving into an absolutely incredible ancient narrative. It's a story that reads straight like a political thriller, packed with backroom maneuvering, incredibly fragile alliances, and a shocking assassination that literally threatens to tear a kingdom apart. We're going to treat this history like the gripping story it is, following the exact details from our source text to see how power is seized, how it's threatened, and how a leader manages a full-blown public relations nightmare. So let's jump right in. Right off the bat, here's the core question we're tackling in today's explainer. How exactly does a rising king survive a scandalous murder that threatens to unravel his entire kingdom? I mean, this isn't just ancient history. It is a masterclass in political survival, optics, and crisis management. But to really grasp the sheer gravity of the situation David finds himself in, we have to start by zooming out and looking at the broader geopolitical landscape. We are dropping right into the middle of a long, grinding war for the absolute control of Israel. We open our story with a massive, undeniable shift in the balance of power. The war between two rival dynasties is raging, but they're moving in completely opposite directions. The House of David, well, they're waxing stronger and stronger. They have all the momentum. Meanwhile, the House of Saul, the previous king, is waxing weaker and weaker. You can feel the tides of history turning here. But as we know, power doesn't just shift on its own, right? It requires serious, calculated consolidation. So David sets up his capital in Hebron, and he immediately gets to work establishing a formidable power base. And back then, you did that through marriage and lineage. While in Hebron, David has 6 sons with 6 different wives. We've got Amnon by Ahinoam, Chileab by Abigail, Absalom by Maacah, Adonijah by Haggith, Shephatiah by Abital, and Ithream by Eglah. In the ancient world, parading a sprawling royal family tree like this isn't just about having a big family. It's a bold, physical declaration of strength and future stability. David is putting down deep, unbreakable roots. Chapter 1: A Dangerous Defection. So while David is busy building up his dynasty, his enemies are literally tearing each other apart from the inside. Over in the crumbling House of Saul, a deeply personal dispute is about to trigger a massive geopolitical betrayal. Here is the inciting incident. Saul's heir, a man named Ishbosheth, is technically the king, but his top general, his strongman, Abner, is the one actually holding the kingdom together. Out of nowhere, Ishbosheth accuses Abner of sleeping with Saul's concubine, Rizpah. He demands, "Wherefore hast thou gone in unto my father's concubine?" Now, you have to understand, in ancient royal politics, claiming a former king's concubine wasn't just a moral scandal. It was viewed as a direct attempt to usurp the throne. It is a massive, dangerous insult to hurl at the guy who is basically keeping your army intact. And Abner, he absolutely explodes. He delivers this incredibly punchy, furious response. "Am I a dog's head, which against Judah do show kindness this day unto the house of Saul thy father, to his brethren, and to his friends, and have not delivered thee into the hand of David, that thou chargest me today with a fault concerning this woman?" Basically, he's screaming, "I have single-handedly kept you out of David's hands, and you treat me like a traitorous dog over a woman?" Abner is so furious that he swears an oath to God on the spot, vowing to rip the kingdom away from Saul and set up David's throne over all of Israel from Dan to Beersheba. And Ishbosheth's reaction? The text says he couldn't answer Abner a single word. He was terrified of him. True to his angry word, Abner immediately sends messengers to David to make a league. He's essentially offering to hand over all of Israel on a silver platter. David agrees, but he has one brutal, non-negotiable condition. Abner must not see David's face unless he first brings Michal, Saul's daughter, with him. This is David's first wife, the one he originally espoused for the gruesome price of 100 Philistine foreskins. And yes, you heard that right. Ancient dowries were incredibly intense. But politically, this is a highly calculated move. By reclaiming Saul's daughter, David is brilliantly strengthening his legitimate claim to Saul's former throne. But let's pause for a second and look at the story at the ground level, because this cold political maneuver comes with a deeply tragic human cost. Ishbosheth actually follows through and rips Michal away from her current husband, a man named Phaltiel. The source text paints this utterly heartbreaking picture. Phaltiel goes with her, walking along and weeping behind her all the way to Bahurim. He just follows his wife in tears, until the fearsome general, Abner, turns around and barks, "Go, return," and the broken-hearted man simply turns back. It is a stark, sad reminder of how everyday people get crushed in the machinations of kings. Anyway, with Michal returned, the alliance moved forward. Abner convinces the elders of Israel to embrace David, arrives in Hebron, feasts with the king, and they strike their deal. David sends Abner away, and he leaves in perfect peace. Chapter 2: The Secret Assassination. Of course, that peace is about to be violently shattered. Let's look at how this builds, step by step, because it happens fast. Abner departs Hebron in peace, but literally right after he leaves, David's top commander, Joab, returns from a raid with massive spoils of war. Joab finds out Abner was just there and was let go in peace. He storms in to confront King David. Then, entirely behind David's back, Joab sends secret messengers to summon Abner back from the well of Sirah. Finally, when Abner returns, Joab takes him aside quietly in the city gate and murders him. Let's unpack Joab's mindset here, because when he first confronts David, he is incensed. He yells at the king, "What hast thou done? Thou knowest Abner the son of Ner, that he came to deceive thee, and to know thy going out and thy coming in, and to know all that thou doest." Joab is loudly accusing Abner of being a spy, playing David for a total fool. He just cannot believe his king let the enemy's top general walk right out the front door. But was it really just national security that motivated Joab? Not at all. The source text reveals the true dark motive behind the assassination. When Joab lures Abner into the gate for a supposedly quiet chat, he strikes him under the fifth rib. Historically, this isn't just a random stab wound. It's a calculated, upward assassin's thrust directly into the heart or liver for instant death. And he does it specifically to avenge the blood of Asahel, his brother. Earlier in the war, Abner had killed Joab's brother in battle at Gibeon. So Joab and his surviving brother Abishai used this fragile peace treaty as a cover to settle a bitter, personal blood feud. Chapter 3: The King's Public Lament. Now, put yourself in David's shoes for a second. You just brokered a massive peace deal to unite the kingdom, and your own general assassinates the guy bringing you the other half of the country, right inside your own capital. To all of Israel, this looks exactly like a trap set by the king. So David's immediate response is aggressive self-preservation. He goes nuclear. He declares to the Lord that he and his kingdom are guiltless forever regarding Abner's blood. And then he places an absolutely horrific, multi-generational curse squarely onto Joab's head. He prays that Joab's house will never be without someone who has a bodily issue, is a leper, needs to lean on a staff, falls by the sword, or starves from lacking bread. It is an incredibly severe public denunciation to make sure everyone knows exactly who went rogue. But words just aren't enough here. David needs a massive visual campaign to ensure the public knows he's innocent. So he launches a highly calculated period of mourning. First, he commands Joab and all the people to rend their clothes and put on sackcloth. Second, King David himself publicly follows the funeral procession, the bier. Third, at the burial in Hebron, the king lifts up his voice and loudly weeps at the grave, moving the entire crowd to weep with him. And fourth, David publicly swears an oath to fast, refusing to taste bread or anything else until the sun goes down. During this emotional climax at the grave, David cries out this really poignant lament. He asks, "Died Abner as a fool dieth?" He goes on to say, "Thy hands were not bound, nor thy feet put into fetters. As a man falleth before wicked men, so fellest thou." This is just brilliant messaging. David is loudly emphasizing to the crowd that Abner was a great man, a true prince of Israel, who was treacherously and unfairly murdered by wicked men. He's making it very clear Abner wasn't executed as a criminal by the state. He was the victim of an unsanctioned crime. So, did this dramatic theater of mourning actually work? Absolutely. The source text gives us the immediate public polling data, so to speak. It says, "All the people took notice of it, and it pleased them, as whatsoever the king did pleased all the people." David's masterclass in political optics works flawlessly. Despite a crisis that could have easily sparked a renewed civil war, his approval among the public remains completely intact. The people see his fasting, his tears, his refusal to eat, and they are totally won over. Which leads us to the ultimate takeaway from this whole messy incident. The text tells us, "For all the people and all Israel understood that day that it was not of the king to slay Abner the son of Ner." This brilliantly illustrates how David successfully managed the fallout. The entire nation of Israel, the very people Abner was trying to bring over to David's side in the first place, were completely convinced of David's innocence. He preserved the fragile new alliance through swift, decisive, and very public grief. But as we wrap up this explainer, we're left with a lingering, pretty dark shadow over David's early reign. On the day of the funeral, David privately admits to his servants that even though he is the anointed king, he actually feels weak. He complains that these men, the sons of Zeruiah, Joab, and Abishai, are simply too hard for him. It leaves us with this final, fascinating question to chew on. If generals like Joab can act completely independently, assassinate royal rivals at the city gates, and get away with it just because they command the army, who truly holds the power in this kingdom? It's a chilling look at the desperate theater of ancient political survival, where the king might wear the crown, but the men with the swords are the ones shaping the history. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep asking those hard questions, and I'll catch you next time.